Welcome to another Facebook Live with Ofsted. Today we have Wendy Ratcliff from the Early Education team, we have Caroline Hearn, who's a Specialist Advisor for Ofsted, and we have Nick Jones from the Regulation team. So any questions, put them in the chat, and we will upload this to YouTube after when we've edited it, so look out for it if you don't manage to catch it on the night. Thanks.
Brilliant, good to see everybody.
We've been doing these Facebook Lives for a while now, and you asked quite a few questions about safer sleep when the department put that out, and hopefully you've seen the latest edition from the department. I'm going to wave it now, but we'll put a link in the chat. Just a lot of those questions answered. They really are keen to get your questions answered and get the clarity for you. So you asked, we did, kind of thing, really.
Yeah,
so
you said, we responded.
Yeah.
That's good.
Okay.
Another one we had in before was one around, we're still getting some questions around when will my setting be inspected, and we have updated our FAQ blog post with some further information, because you'll know that from the 1st of April the Department for Education are funding us to move from a 6-year window to a 4-year window. So basically, what does that mean for me and my last inspection? So we have confirmed that all settings on the early years register will be inspected at least once by March 2030. So if you were already inspected under the previous 6-year window, you'll move to the 4-year window at your next routine inspection. That said, of course, we will always, if we've got a concern, we receive concerns or information that gives us a cause for concern, we can inspect at any time, we can visit more frequently. And then the other thing is newly registered settings will usually have their first inspection within 18 months of registration. Okay, any questions coming in? Because Kate did share them with us beforehand. There were a few that had just come through.
What should I talk about on the planning call?
Oh, that's a really good question, and that's one for me. And because that's linked to inspection, we're getting some really good feedback about the planning call from childminders and group providers as well. And all the kind of things around the planning call is listed in our operating guide. Again, we can pop the link into the chat, but that planning call is a really important opportunity for you and the inspector to build that, have that initial professional dialogue, build that rapport ahead of inspection, and the inspector will want to find out about your setting, the context of your setting and where you're working. They'll have conversations about asking you about what are your strengths, what are some of your priorities for improvement, things you're working on, and together you can agree the inspection activities and the best time for things to happen. But again, there's more information about the planning call within our operating guide. Oh, here we go, we've got our first question. Okay. So this is from Indira. So good evening to you. So you and your friend are planning on working as childminders together from the rented 1-bed bungalow. You've got years of experience working with children. We have done all the relevant training, DBS checks and first aid course. When completing the application, do we register as with no domestic premises?
Ooh,
that's one for you.
It is interesting question. So does somebody live in this bungalow? It's going to be the question we want to know there. Is it a domestic dwelling? Right, isn't it, Nick?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's looking at is it a domestic dwelling or not. So if someone's living there, then it is a domestic dwelling. So you are not you're not going to be registering without domestic premises. You'll be registering with domestic premises. So that's the simple way to look at that, really. But that sounds fantastic. So
that does. Sounds like a really good opportunity.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Okay.
So other questions we've had recently, just going back to the sleep. We keep people coming back to can children sleep in prams and pushchairs, and the answer to that is they can when they're out on a walk. That's fine. If a child falls asleep in a pushchair or a pram, that's absolutely fine. particularly last week, you would be definitely looking at children not getting too hot, making sure they've not got too many layers on them, that the blankets, they're not too hot. But when they come back into the house, a child 12 or under should always be transferred straight away into a cot, and it's best practice to do that for an older child as well. Get them into the right sleeping environment. I know it's always tricky waking a sleeping child, but that is the safest place for them to sleep. It's prams and cots and prams and pushchairs are not intended as sort of long-term sleeping environments.
Brilliant, thank you. India has come back on that question about the bungalow and saying no, it will be rented only for us to work from.
So it'll be non-domestic registration. You need to go down for that.
Brilliant, thank you, Nick.
But I think there's two options there, isn't there? Because you can register as a childminder without domestic premises, or a fully fledged kind of childcare non-domestic nursery environment. So yeah, entirely depends on what works for you.
And is it worth saying that there's guidance on our website?
100%,
which we can pop in, can't we, on both those types of registrations.
There is, and then you've got the different EYFSs. If it's childminding
really
with or
good
without
point.
domestic, or you want to just go for a daycare, a small daycare, because it won't be a domestic premises, you can do that. But yeah, lots of options there, basically.
Yeah, and there's lots of guidance and information available for you to have a look at as well. Okay, hi Lily. You're due your registration visit this week for a nursery. So you're aiming to have children from 18 months to 5 years in one room. Any advice, please?
So, congratulations, that's fantastic. You're going to be opening a new nursery. We need that desperately.
Yeah.
So really, EYFS. There is no secret handbook. We don't have anything else that we would come out and look at. We will be looking at the EYFS with you and how you plan to meet that, how you plan to deliver a curriculum for those children, how you plan to keep them safe. All aspects of that we will talk you through. Interesting, you're all in one room, so it's how you're going to use that space and how you're going to create those mixes of children. It's not a bad thing. It can be done very well, but just all the consideration you've given that, the fact you're here asking us these questions now, I suspect you've given it lots of consideration. So just have the courage of your convictions and good luck.
Yeah, good luck with that. And I would say that, just have that confidence on the day when, the inspector comes to do that visit, because actually just explain, and talk through your thinking in terms of how you looking to set up the provision and be ready to kind of operate, really. Okay. There's one here, this is one for you, Caroline, because I know you'll be able to answer this, from Emma. Are the community playthings coracles acceptable? They meet the criteria for British safety, checking the safety numbers. Let's just open that question up. It meets all the safety regulations, however it isn't a cot. The DfE clarity was useful, but still slightly unclear with that one.
So the department are still working on coracles and sleep pods, because they've got a lot of questions about those at the moment. I mean, the changes to sleep aren't new. They've always been there in the Lullaby Trust guidance, which has been linked out the EYFS. So none of this is new, but some people have just not quite caught it, and you're seeing it more now that it's sort of being flagged and pushed a bit more. So that's all good that you're seeing it and you're doing it. In terms of the coracles, they will be coming out with more guidance on that. But again, look at what they're saying. So the fact that you've looked at kite marks, that's good. Look at the stability of that, the space for the baby to have their arms and to move a little bit, and to have space around them. It's you wouldn't have a bump or lots of things next to them in the cot. So making sure it's not too confining a space for a child. But they are coming back out with some further guidance on that, because we know you've got a lot of questions on those particular methods.
Yeah, those methods, and the update to the EYFS won't be until September.
It won't be until September, but they will. They are looking to get something out
before
that,
then,
so
of course, because that's going to be helpful. Okay, we've got back to timeframes of inspection. So with the overlap of 4 to 6 year inspection window, do we know how this will work for people caught in the middle? So if your 6 year cycle will end in 2028, but the 4 year cycle has already begun, Now, where's that question's disappeared? It jumped.
Got lots of questions coming in now, which is great.
Yeah, which is great. So if you were your next inspection would be due in 2028, what we've said is everybody, so you've already been inspected, so everybody will be inspected at least once by 2030. So you're kind of like captured in that time frame. Okay, Charlotte, I'm in the process of opening my second nursery. Good. My application was submitted in early March, and we're just opening that question. And application was approved and fee paid in April. We already have a massive waiting list, and the LA have said there are massive shortages. Where has that question gone? It's just
loads of questions have come in. Which is
can you give me any indication of how long the registration process will take, please? Just so I can give parents on the waiting list an idea of time frames.
Yes, I can probably jump in on that one. Congratulations on opening your second, or pending opening the second nursery. It would depend on where your application's up to be honest with you, and obviously not knowing the specifics, but there are obviously quite a lot of checks we need to do as part of your application. It being a second setting on top one you already have. Generally speaking, it's a quicker process, just because obviously you're already known to us, so checks do carry over, but there are obviously some variables there that may delay you a little bit as well. So yeah, unfortunately, without knowing the specifics, I can't give you the exact time frame, but given when you've submitted that, hopefully it shouldn't be too much longer.
So Nick, we often get if people say, when would it be okay for them to start sending us an email and asking about their application? Because I always say you don't want to be inundated, because otherwise we're answering emails about where your application is and not dealing with your application. But what's kind of a reasonable window if I've not heard?
I mean, our system is quite good, so we do send out pretty regular updates in relation to where things are up to and sort of any further information that we require from the applicants and providers. But I would say, yeah, if you're kind of outside of that 12-week target window that we set, you know, by all means contact us and we can take a look for you.
That's really helpful advice, thank you.
Because we don't want to be spending a lot of time answering emails about where my application is. We want to be dealing with your application.
Absolutely, and getting those applications through. Lily's asking, how long is the wait after the registration visit till our first Ofsted inspection, and will we get a phone call the day before still? So once you are registered, your first inspection will be now within 18 months of that registration, and yes, absolutely, we notify providers before 10 o'clock the day before your inspection, and that will be the notification call, and then the inspector will make an arrangement for a longer call, and that's the planning call, so that you can build those professional relationships with the inspector ahead of your inspection the following day.
It's probably worth saying, Wendy, at this point as well, that we do some visits without notice.
We do,
where
yes.
we've got concerns and information warrants that we need to come out without notice, but you don't miss out on all that rich conversation that you would have had on the planning call. That's all carried out when we arrive, it's just on site, it's face to face rather than a phone call beforehand. Yeah. So you still get that chance to talk to the inspector about everything that you would on the planning call. Yeah,
and all that detail is set out in our published guidance, because there is no secret guidance. Here we've got a question here from Kaylee, and I think I know what you're going to say, Caroline. Are the fold-out waterproof sleep mats okay to use for over 12 months with fitted sheets and cellular blankets? Again, need to look at the guidance.
So you look at the guidance. The guidance does say, yes, you can use a fitted sheet as long as it's a well-fitted sheet, it fits properly, it's not loose. So the guidance is really good, it breaks that all down for you. So have a look at that, rather than me try and give you guidance on all your individual bits of kit. We'll make sure the FAQ document from the department is linked in the comments when we finish tonight, so you'll get that. It's a really helpful guide. And again, they will be adding to it, but yeah, it's a good start. And Lullaby Trust, excellent website. That's where the department linked to other things. There's a lot of safe sleep guidance there as well. So have a look on their website too.
Okay. Question here from Liam. This is a good question. What sort of evidence do you need for the special educational needs part of the inspection visit? Is it proof of spending on early years pupil premium resources, etc.? So what I would suggest, Liam, is have a look at the early years toolkit and the evaluation area for inclusion. And that provides, within each of the evaluation areas in the toolkit, there are evidence gathering prompts, things that our inspectors will be looking out for and asking you about as part of that inspection process. So yeah, absolutely, we want to find out about any children that you've got in your setting that have got special educational needs, and if you've got children in receipt of early years pupil premium as well, we'd be interested to know not necessarily, we're interested to know what the impact of the spend is. How are you making a difference for those children? But again, have a look in the toolkit.
Looking at Amanda's comment there.
Okay, go on, do you want to read?
Yeah, so nerves, and how do you deal with nerves on inspection? It's an age-old thing, isn't it? I think if someone told me tomorrow I had to do my driving test or something, I'd be nervous because we're nervous. So you're not going to not be nervous, because actually if you weren't nervous, it would be because you weren't bothered. So anything we're bothered about, we will naturally be a little bit nervous.
And we're passionate about.
Absolutely. You want to do well, you want to shine, you want to show everything you're doing. So a bit of nerves probably going to be normal. But we're here to have that really good chat with you, that really good relationship with you, to get to know you, to find out what you're doing with the children. So we will talk to you. And if you have one of those moments where you just forget your own name, we all have those moments. It's fine. Have that moment and then come back and go, I can't believe I just forgot that. I do know that. It's this. I mean, I've walked into him before and I've said, how many children have you got in here today? And they've just gone, I don't know. It's fine. Don't worry about it. Let's come back to that. And then 2 minutes later, it was like, I do know. Of course, I know. It's this. This is what I've got. So you're allowed to have a human moment.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And the inspectors are humans themselves.
Oh, absolutely. Yes,
Absolutely.
definitely. Yeah. And actually, if you're feeling particularly anxious, nervous, let the inspector know that.
Yeah.
Because, the renewed inspection approach is very much about collaboration and working together, and, inspectors will be asking you about your well-being both before and during the inspection. We've got a question here about the planning call and who is best placed to do this, and can you have more than one person? Yeah, absolutely, you can have more than one person. So the planning call will usually take place with the person who knows the setting and the children best. So it's likely to be if you're a manager or if you're a childminder. But actually, if there's somebody else that you would like to be with you on that planning call, then that's absolutely fine. Again, have that conversation with your inspector. Hello, hi. We have registered our setting under childcare on domestic premises in regards to inspection call because comes under childminders. Do we still get the 5-day window for inspection or the next day? So you've got childcare on domestic premises in regards to the inspection call. What's the answer to that one?
I'm not sure with childcare on domestic. That's a really good question.
Yeah.
It's not childminding.
It's not childminding, and you're
daycare.
operating as a daycare, and
So
you're
it's
following the
daycare.
UIFS, so it
Yeah.
will be the day before.
It will be the day before. Yeah.
That was one for a
There you
Tuesday
go.
evening that you're kind of like, oh.
Maybe the moment.
Yeah, absolutely, we're allowed to do that. Liam, you're welcome. Is it deemed safe to have children over 2 years sleeping in a separate room to where we are playing? I have a couple of children who sleep in my living room where I can make it darker, cooler and quieter. All children are checked and these are recorded every 10 minutes, but I'm concerned if I'll be penalised that I'm not physically supervising in the room. Now, Caroline's going to
Back to the guidance.
go back to that guidance.
So the guidance
She's
is-
got it in front of her.
Yeah, I do, because, kind of it all in my head. So children over 6 months of age should always be within sight and hearing of staff while they are sleeping. So what they're saying here is a baby monitor can help in those situations, because that is how you could achieve sight and hearing. You're doing lots of regular checks, so that's really good. So going by the guidance, they are saying that's okay. And it's just making sure you're keeping an eye out on that monitor as well, that it's not parked in the corner and you're distracted with the children in the room. So we would expect you to be keeping an eye on that and listening for changes in the children who are asleep.
Okay, we've got another question here about applications, Nick, so maybe this is one for you. We're hoping to submit our application this week. Also, we are hoping to start working from September. I know it's probably hard for you to answer, but do you think it's realistic? As we are very excited, that's really good to hear you're excited, to start and set up our setting.
Yes, I'd link back to that kind of 12-week target that we've got for applications, which would take you to, what was that maths say? September should be achievable for that. Obviously, again, sound like a bit of a broken record. There's going to be a lot of variables that may change that target. Could be quicker, could be a little bit longer, but I'd say if you send your application, fantastic stuff. We'll get to that, and you'll receive a welcome call as well. Once we've picked that up, then I'll talk you through kind of the whole process and give you any further information that you need.
Brilliant.
The other thing we often get with that, though, is just when we email you, please answer us quickly, because sometimes we find that we're waiting for you to come back to us with information, and actually it's
that's a good point, because our systems are, for some reason, a pesky habit of going into junk folders. So do always check.
That's
your
a
junk
really good
folders.
tip, isn't it? Check your junk folder.
Yeah.
Okay. Happy at Harwood Home Childcare. You registered in June 2025 when the 3-year and the 30 within 30 months of the first inspection guidance, but it was soon. Where are we? Soon after changed to 18 months. Will I expect my first one within 18 months from opening? So if you opened in June 2025.
So we are looking to accelerate those ones. So yes, you should be getting your first inspection within 18 months.
Yeah, so you won't be waiting that 30 months. Okay.
So we'll also make sure we put in the chat tonight any blogs that we've written, updates and information, so that you can see what's current in the world of childcare.
Yeah, absolutely.
The most recent one on use assistance.
Yes.
Online.
Yes.
A good read.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so we've got a few more here. So at the registration visit, I am the nominated person, but going in as a partnership. So will the registration visit question be okay for both of us to answer, or just me as the nominated person?
So is that, what type of childcare? Sorry.
It's Lily.
I think it'd be childcare non-domestic is the presumption there, isn't it?
Yes. Okay, so non-domestic. Yes, we'll be coming out to speak to you. So it's a mixture of you and who else was it? Sorry, I'm just trying to get back to that question.
Yeah, instead of a company, they're a partnership. So there's basically
That's
two
fine.
of them.
Yeah, absolutely. We can come out with.
That's fine. Yeah. Okay. It's when the little tab jumps around so much.
It does. That's why.
Yeah.
It was jumping on.
Where is the best place to point? Oh, there you go again. That jumped. Where is the best place to point parents regarding online safety and support for children? I want to add this into our policy, but want to a trustable source, as you don't know what's true at the moment, especially with AI developing quickly. Safeguarding children. That's a really good question, isn't it? There was recently, the government published some guidance for it was the NSPCC, was it? Yeah, which is always a reliable source as well. So maybe have a look.
Lullaby Trust, NSPCC, good reputable sites like that. There's a lot of linkage in the EYFS to external sources of information. Your local authority should be able to also help you with that. Health and safety executive. Depends on the type. That's quite broad in terms of what you want to give parents. So if you, as I said, Lullaby Trust, if you're looking for some sleep guidance for them and information about that, or screen time is a big issue at the moment, and the DfE have issued some guidance on screen time. That's a really good one. There's some really good, easy, accessible, shareable resources within that package of updates. So I would definitely say start with their handy.
Have a look at those and just have a look. And then there's the on gov.uk internet safety help for early years providers as well, which we've just been reminded about. So thank you for that. Here's a good question. Do we need to have written planning for all children, or we can still do in the moment planning? It's entirely up to you. In terms of what works best for you, in terms of thinking about inspection, we'd be interested to find out from you what you know about your children, what they can do, what they could do when they started with you, what they can do now, and where are you taking them next. And that, how you capture that information, or if you capture that information. There are obviously some requirements in the EYFS, such as a 2-year check, which you will have to do. But other than that, it's entirely up to you and what works for you and your setting. Okay. Lily came back and said nursery, and that's fine. Thank you, Lily. Okay, can I also double check that the nominated individual could also be the settings nominee if required?
Oh, nominees.
Nominees. There's information actually about nominees in our frequently asked questions blog, as well as our published operating guide. Some really helpful information there. It can be, if that's the right person, if that's the person who knows the children and the setting best, then potentially the nominated individual could be the nominee. Have a look at that guidance, because what we're finding is that not all places need a nominee as part of the inspection. That nominee's there for particularly large settings where there's kind of like the logistics of inspection need some careful working through, and it might be where there's more than 2 inspectors, for example, because there's lots of different rooms, and that just makes the whole inspection run more smoothly. So Charlotte's just come back. Thank you for the response to my question. So just to clarify, am I okay to email for an update? I don't want to pester you, but also don't want to, that question just disappeared back, my application to get lost in the system.
I can't remember the time frames that Charlotte shared when she submitted certain things, but if you feel like you've not had an update for a number, if you've not had an update for a number of weeks, then by all means drop us an email now, Charlotte, and we'll take a look.
Okay, we got a
Check your junk mail. Sounds like you might.
Yeah,
have
I was going to say, yeah. Check your spam folder. A question here from Emma. My mum and I co-childmind together. I just wondered if we will be inspected together and if we would get the same report or it would be done individually. We are fairly newly registered, so haven't had our first inspection yet. So wherever possible, and again this is covered in our operating guide and our published materials, wherever possible, if your inspections are due, we'd try and do them coordinate them so they're done at the same time. But if you're both individually registered as childminders, you will each have your own early years inspection. So you will end up with your own early years inspection report. Okay, because if you're registered in your own right. However, if you one of you is the childminder and the other is an assistant, then it will just be the one. It depends on who's registered and how you're operating.
It does.
Okay, Caroline, do you want to do this next one?
So, can I work this one with Nick? It depends. So it's, can I ask the suitability letter to why the suitability takes so long? The staff member has been in childcare, never without a DBS. I've spoken to Ofsted today and they said childcare checks are
all back.
Complete. Why am I still waiting? Okay, so we've told you today that the checks are all back and it's complete. I suspect we were imminently about to get in touch and tell you it's sorted. Is that
more than likely? Yeah, because obviously there's the individual checks, but then there's the kind of overall application for individuals, and that needs to be reviewed as a whole. But that obviously happens quickly after we receive all the checks, and if we need any more information, we'll be in contact.
Brilliant, thanks for that. That's helpful, Nick. Indira's just come back and said thank you for answering all the questions. It's extremely helpful. You're very welcome. Yes, we do recognise there's a lot of information online, so sometimes when you hear it from the experts themselves, it makes a massive difference. So thank you. You're very welcome, and thank you for taking the time to join us this evening.
And call us experts. That's nice.
Yeah, there's that too. Yeah. But there is also, in all seriousness, though, if there is anything that you feel you would like further clarity clarity on in terms of a published format. So from an inspection point of view, we do update that frequently asked questions blog with when we get commonly asked questions, and as Nick has already referred to, the recent blog around assistance. So when we sense that there's a bit of a theme coming through and people want more information, then we do what we can to provide that. So we do appreciate you asking your questions. Do all staff need to be DSL trained, Caroline?
No. So the EYFS is really clear. I'm assuming your nursery, not childminder, but have a look in there. The lead, who's the DSL trained, and then the safeguarding training is there. It's all in the annex for the EYFS. So have a look at the relevant EYFS. I'm making assumptions here, and just follow that. It is there. There is no other requirement than the EYFS.
Charlotte has checked her junk folder, so maybe it is time to maybe send us an email.
Yeah.
Potentially. Okay. Okay. When we say first inspection is within 18 months, is it between 12 to 18 months, or could it be any time, for example, after 3 to 6 months?
Oh, it can be at any time, because we can come at any point. So we can come without notice, or we can come with notice. If we need to come and see you a bit earlier, if we're getting information that suggests it's probably about time to come and do an inspection, we may come a little earlier. It will be within that window, so obviously we've got a lot of people to see. You're all not going to be seen on month 18, because that just wouldn't be logistically possible. So it could be that you're seen around the 12-month mark. We always say that you're doing what you're doing for the children. You're not doing it for us, so just do what you do every day and you will be fine.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I think if you're doing what's right for your children, then you're doing what's right for Ofsted.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Okay. Colleen's just said that if the lady who you spoke to today wasn't sure why it was taking so long, I'm sure she's definitely following that up for you. She'll be on it. Okay. Oh, this is a good one, Amanda. What do you love to see when visiting settings? Do you know what we'd love to see when visiting settings? That you are doing what you would be doing. Have the confidence to do what you do every day. And as I say, if you're doing what's right for your children, then you're doing what's right for Ofsted. You know, we want to see what you're doing and how you're supporting your children to get off to that best start in life.
Reminds me of the mud kitchen issue. So we had an issue that Ofsted like mud kitchens a few years ago.
Do we?
And we were told, everyone, you like a mud kitchen, so we've got one. And I don't really have any view about a mud kitchen. A really skilled practitioner engaging a child really well with a mud kitchen. Now that's something to see.
Yeah.
But that's not the mud kitchen. That's the skilled practitioner. But
absolutely, because a mud kitchen is a piece of equipment. It's a resource, but actually the most important resource within that mud kitchen is you. It's those high quality interactions with children, that serve and return, that is going to make all the difference.
So that's what we love to see, children engaged and learning and happy. So,
yeah, absolutely. Okay, so more here about the regards to the 4-year window. You were inspected in 2024. I take it that I will be inspected before 2030, possibly 2029, and then you'll be in the 4-year window. You've got it. Well done. Got it. Okay. We've caught up with questions.
We have caught up with questions.
So, no, is there a new one? No,
yeah.
Isn't.
So
If
an interesting one, if you are thinking of registering, we obviously get quite busy over the summer season with people wanting to be registered in time for September. So always give us a little bit as much notice as you can over the summer, because we've already had chats tonight about people asking to be ready for September. It's a key date for start time. So give yourself as best window as you can. If you're coming for September, get your application in now, basically.
I would say to that as well. Just make sure your application is 100% accurate prior to submission. I'm sure obviously you would do that anyway, but we don't want to need to be returning forms back for any sort of discrepancies, because that's going to slow things down for you as well. So just be super clear that that's exactly what it needs to be.
Is there any key things people tend to get wrong on applications, Nick?
That's an interesting one.
Yeah, so there's a few things, because we do ask for quite a lot of information. I think legal entity is a big one. So if you're applying as a company, make sure that's what you're applying as.
Okay.
I think the terminology about sole trader and like sole director can be quite confusing. So
Yes.
if you're the sole director of a company, often people will put sole trader as their entity type, which isn't correct, but obviously quite clear why you would make that assumption. So yeah, I think legal entity is a real big one to just be super clear on the application.
And can I check, when that kind of information's submitted and it might not quite be right, what actually happens?
So one of our advisors will contact the applicant to essentially talk them through what the errors are. If we can't get hold of you, we'll resubmit the form with guidance attached.
Perfect. So it's not that it just goes back and you've got to try and work out what it is that
No, we don't send
required.
cryptic responses.
No, brilliant. Okay, that's lovely. Let's just have a look. A couple more questions have come in here. One from Jade. Although already registered on the update service, oh, it jumped back again. This screen moved. For DBS, your husband's physical paper has been misplaced during your house move. Is this needed for inspection, please? Jade, are you a childminder?
I'm guessing so. It's her husband on the
yeah.
system, unless they're working together in non-domestic childcare, but we're going to assume childminder. We will already have that detail.
We've got
on
that
our
information
system,
on our
so
system,
You're
so
okay.
you're
He's
right.
okay.
Yeah.
You can stop turning out the boxes now.
Yeah. Well, unless you need.
Unless you really need it, then tell him absolutely he has to keep it clean. But
Yeah.
yeah, you're okay.
Yeah. Okay. So, Liam, you've heard that in some circumstances, staff who do not hold full and relevant level 3 qualification may be recognised as level 3 competent and therefore counted within the level 3 staffing ratios. Could you please clarify whether there is a formal process for this? If so, what the criteria must be? So I would say check the EYFS where it talks about the experience-based route. And it will link you to the DFE's guidance. Now, that is something that came in last September. I want to say, Caroline, it was last September.
Started March, but it was officially they were allowed to be in level 3 from September.
Yeah, so there is a list of criteria around that, and the guidance is really quite clear. But yes, have a look at it, because yes, you can include, if they have got the correct experience and you deem them competent, they can be included as a level 3, but please do check out the criteria.
Yeah.
Okay, we're being told we've got 3 minutes. Okay. A lot of people have recently had the initial email. Is there a particular time frame between the email to the phone call? Thank you. I think that and is this the email? We occasionally, what we do is we, if you're a childminder, we do come out occasionally with a survey and just check your hours of operating and whether you're still minding, just in terms of updating our records.
I don't think it doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to be inspecting you.
No, that's the bit I was,
immediately.
yeah, that was the bit I was going to get to there.
Interesting one.
This one here from Indira. Okay. Go on, you go.
Go on, you go.
As we are planning on working from non-domestic premises, during the first visit from Ofsted, what would be the key things you would be looking for?
So if you're a domestic childcare and you're working non-domestically, that you've let us know would be the first thing that we'd want to know. But we're looking at how you've set that up. How do you make that space work for the children you've got? And that will be very different for each cohort's children. You've obviously got within the EYFS safety requirements and things that have to be in place to keep children safe. But how you use that space to deliver your curriculum is really personal to you and the children. So the inspector will be chatting to you about that and asking you how you make use of the space. Anything I'm missing here, Wendy, that we want to look
No,
for?
I don't think so. And it's kind of like just how you're thinking about that space, the age, what you do with different ages of children, thinking about the curriculum, and thinking about the context actually in which you'll be operating in the community, and the types of thinking about the area in which you live and what your priorities would be for your curriculum. And when we talk about curriculum, we're talking about what is it that you want children to know and be able to do while they're with you, so that you're preparing them for what comes next. and I can see that Kate is.
Hovering.
She's hovering. She's coming.
I'm loitering. I'm loitering.
She's loitering. Is that our time up, Kate?
It is. So I'm going to put the links in the chat under that we've mentioned during the chat, so you'll find them useful. And we are at the Nursery Management Show in Birmingham on the 26th of June. So if you're there, come and say hello.
Yeah, we'll definitely be there. So see you there.
Thanks.
Thanks everyone.
Bye.
Have a lovely
Take care.
evening.
Cheers.
Thanks for your time.